Greetings, you warriors of the broken sword. Welcome all. I am Jonathan.
I'm Nick.
And we are the Goslings.
Good evening.
A digital speakeasy where we cover everything from Christian esoterica to digital currency and all of the strangeness and coolness of the wonderful wide world in between.
That's right.
So we'll go ahead and you want to get started on the
let's do the toast. So we get the ticker up here. American Garza's watching. What's up, man?
Hey, how's it going, buddy?
Dude, thanks for checking in with us tonight.
Yeah. So we're gonna hit the ground running here, and we're gonna go ahead and do the toast. I will lead. Take up the broken sword of your father
and strike down the darkness.
Amen. Mm-hmm. Ah, yes.
Delicious.
That's a bunch of cold coffee.
That's what I love that video. What's it called? Tesla and Twain?
Yes. Yeah. If you guys want to have a good time, just Google Tesla and Twain. It's like a 7-minute hilarious video.
Yeah, I don't think it's on YouTube.
It
you know what
pops up every now and then. You can also find it on Vimeo. Very, very funny. Yeah. Anyways, okay. So let's go.
Let's mention actually, before we jump to our sponsors, Tricky Subject. What's up?
Hey, Tricky.
Welcome. Good evening. Glad you're watching. Before we do the recognition of our amazing sponsors, which you guys may or may not have heard of, we want to humbly request that you take up the broken sword of your finger and strike down the subscribe button and Spartan strike that bell too.
Yeah, ring that bell, baby.
Ring the bell.
Rocky style.
Let it ring.
Balboa. Hit that Balboa bell.
Lynn Etheridge is here. Good evening, Lynn.
Hey,
good
Lynn.
to see your name. It's always good to see you. Thanks for dropping in. Very cool. Yeah. And now we can get to the sponsoring of our show.
Nick, why don't you tell us about these cool mugs that we're rocking here?
These are Kothon Spartan mugs. The Kothon is the mug that the Spartan warriors would drink out of. We know that from historical record. However, there are no artifacts of this, so we actually don't know what they look like. Joel Cherico from ChericoPottery.com is a master potter, and he set out to create the Kothon mug. And so in collaboration with the great Stephen Pressfield, who's kind of a subject matter expert on the Spartans, they designed this to be as close as what we know is historically accurate representation of the Kothon Spartan mugs. Everyone is handcrafted, handmade, hand-painted. They're beautiful, they're durable, they're strong. Go to ChericoPottery.com. Check out Joel's amazing work.
Yes. Yeah. And if you want to have a luscious and luxurious beard and excellent skin, as a man, you cannot go wrong with Giordani Jovanovic hair care products. Hair and skincare products made by real men, made for real men. And as we like to say here on the Goslings, be as sexy as you are deadly. Give 007 a run for his money. Activate your inner John Wick with Giordani Jovanovic hair care and skincare products.
Yeah, there we go.
JiordaniJovanovic.com. Thank you, Mike, the proprietor of Giordani Jovanovic.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mike Fisher, for the generous support. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Hope you guys check these out. Kira OC, also in the chat. Welcome. Good evening.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us tonight. And tell us a little bit about the interview we're about to play.
We have a lot of fun on the Goslings covering a wide array of topics. And a lot of times those topics are pretty heavy, whether it's Gary Wayne talking about the Genesis 6 conspiracy and the royal bloodlines, whether it's Tim Cohen talking about the Antichrist and King Charles, or whether it's Derek Gilbert talking about the Nephilim and the end times, or any of the other amazing people we have had on here, Vicky Joy Anderson. You know, we have had a wide array of amazing guests, most of whom are coming back over the next 6 months. We are booked out through May at this point. And we have some tons of amazing new people that you have not yet seen on the Goslings. And a lot of times, while this subject matter is fascinating to us and edifying for our audience and highly beneficial, it tends to sometimes be a little heavy and sometimes can be a little dark. So we like to do a palate cleanser every now and then where we just kind of do something fun. And Nick and I are both products of the 80s.
Yes, we are.
And as a part of that, through Jimmy and Jay Reese Bradley, who run the Dancing with Ourselves 80s themed Totally Rad podcast, which you should totally listen to.
Absolutely.
We have been on it twice. One time there was a 2-part episode that they released, and then they're going to do another one here lately. But they set us up with somebody super cool. His name is Austin Trunick, and he wrote an amazing book called The Canon Film Guide. And he has 2 volumes out now, available on his website and on Amazon in paperback. He is working on a 3rd, and he is kind of the reigning encyclopedic authority of 80s B-movie film extraordinaire, Canon Films. Canon Films is responsible for everything from the Lou Ferrigno Hercules movies all the way up through Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, or as I like to call it, Superman 4, The Quest for Bankruptcy, as well as Masters of the Universe, all of the Chuck Norris movies like Delta Force, Missing in Action, Invasion America, the Sylvester Stallone vehicle, Over the Top, Bloodsport. I mean, Canon Films.
The Ninja movies?
Yeah, Revenge of the Ninja.
Oh.
Canon Films, whether you realize it or not, if you are a product of the 80s, really kind of codified our childhood in a lot of ways. And we all kind of grew up watching a lot of these movies on TV on Saturday afternoons. When they would air on cable, and then for a lot of people like Austin Trunick, it was one of the go-to film companies for VHS rentals back in the day, and lots of great memories and great experiences with Canon Films. Canon Films also had a very colorful history as far as its production and its management and how they ran things.
Colorful, shady.
Right, what's the difference?
The line is a little blurred there, but they're
Yeah.
responsible for such a wide bulk of 80s films, and they're probably responsible for why your local movie rental place could keep shelves full of various titles and not just have the latest 1,000 copies of the latest thing.
Yeah, they were prolific proprietors.
Yeah, prolific's the right
films.
word. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it was, I think, what did he say? In 1986, it was something like 200 films were produced.
Yeah, something crazy.
The numbers are insane. So anyway, so we like to do, every now and then we kind of like to do the orange sherbet of, channel palate cleansers.
Yeah, palate cleanser. We just, we get into the heavy, deep, serious stuff about the end times. We have guests that come on. We talk about esoteric. We talk about the supernatural. We talk about all that stuff because it's important and people want to know that stuff. But sometimes we just wanted to, this is just us taking a break and decompressing a little bit, having some fun, talking about something that we really cherished when we were kids. And maybe you will too. I think the demographic for most people who watch this channel is kind of in the same, like 40s, 50s, somewhere in there. So we thought a lot of people would also have fun reminiscing with us about the glory of the movies especially the B movies, the Canon films of the 1980s,
which seem to lack a lot of self-awareness and self-criticism and subversion that seems to have creeped into the film industry in the subsequent decades. The 80s were just like, let's just go out and be awesome. Let's just be fun and go for it.
And one thing that I'm going to do too, because the interview's about an hour long, about halfway through, we're going to come back on, and live chat with you guys. And we'll be in the chat during the interview, but we're going to come back halfway through and I will pull up that picture of me dressed as a ninja to show how inspired I was by one of Canon Films when I was 12?
At least,
probably 12,
at most.
11 or 12 in this picture of me dressed like a ninja. Very embarrassing, but for you guys, it's worth it.
Yeah, worth it. Well, I went through boxes of pictures last night and found about a dozen pictures of Nick and I from the 80s, some of which will apply here, and some of which you will see, especially if you're a Patreon member later on, because I'm going to start using them as promotional material.
Oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. Lynn Etheridge says I was parenting in the 80s.
Nice.
So you'll get me then. You totally understand me. You'll know what kind of child I was.
Yeah.
So we have a lot in common.
Yeah.
You'll roll your eyes
And Austin
and smile.
yeah, both at the same time.
Yeah.
It's rub your tummy and pat your head at the same time. Austin Trunick, we spent about an hour with him, and we're gonna have him back. He was a lot of fun. We were limited on our time, so we always try to go for like at least an hour and a half if we can with a guest, but sometimes time constraints get in the way and they prevent us from doing that. So this is not going to be as long of an episode as what we're used to. But we are going to have Austin back, and we're going to do more deep dives into individual movies.
Yeah.
You know, that could be a lot of fun. So yeah.
Lynn asks, Ninja Turtle? No, I'm not dressed as a Ninja Turtle. I'm like
a ninja,
like in full black, like the whole thing, except you can see my moon face.
And yeah, and if you want the backstory behind that, go to the Dancing with Ourselves podcast, which you can find on iTunes and a bunch of other places.
iTunes, Spotify, Apple Music,
and you can listen to Nick and I. Those guys interviewed me and Nick last year, and we talked about our experiences.
So fun,
dressing up as ninjas and terrorizing our poor parents with all of our different shenanigans. So it's
never lost a limb, never stabbed each other, never got hurt. We were
not yet.
We were proper. We were proper ninjas.
Yeah, we were proper ninjas.
Hey, Gabe Bellows on. What's up, Gabe? Thanks for watching, man.
Gabriel Bellows, saxophone extraordinaire.
Yeah,
yes, another product of the 80s. Gabe and I had so much fun. We were talking until 3 a.m. last night, and we spent a sizable portion dissecting some of our favorite 80s movies. And so, Gabe, I think you're really going to enjoy this. And if you want amazing musical content from one of the best Christian saxophonists you could ever listen to, he is more than that for sure, but definitely check out Gabriel Bellows' YouTube channel. Give him a sub and a like, because he is one of our dear friends and we adore him, and his channel is extraordinary. So he's got a whole Star Wars playlist, by the way.
He's a huge Star Wars fan. Yeah.
Gabe is cool.
He's very cool. Very cool.
Gabe is way cooler than we are. So.
And I'm about to hit play on the video here, but as I do, guys, if you guys just give this live stream a like as we play this intro here, that would help tremendously. Like the video, share it if you are so inclined. Also greatly appreciated.
Share it with the people you love, and share it with the people you hate.
Yeah,
like if you love us, share it with your cool friends. If you think we suck, send it to your enemies. So.
If you hate us, send it to people that send it to your enemies. Exactly. All right, without further ado, guys, here is our interview with, and again, we'll be in the chat with you guys. Here is our interview with Austin Trunick.
Your YouTube feed is crap. Stop wasting your time watching bot-boosted shills and self-appointed gurus cloying for your attention. Instead, join the Gosslings interview live stream and podcast. The Gosslings, a dark-lit digital speakeasy of free thinkers. A super chat of radical truth-seeking wizards who eat trolls for second breakfast. Topics that'll make your mama's hair stand on end. Ideas that'll make your pastor's knees knock. Guests that will illuminate the hidden chambers of your mind. And interviews that strike down the darkness. Welcome to the Gosslings.
Culturally illiterate. Even though I grew up in the 80s, Nick's I was really sheltered. I was
5 or 6 years
homeschooled.
Older than me, so. And I was born in 83, so Nick should know all this stuff more than me, but he was too busy learning real skills while I was obsessing over Masters of the Universe.
I was just trying to figure out how to get other kids to talk to me.
Still hasn't figured it out.
I still haven't figured it out.
Well, Austin, your website is awesome. Your books are amazing. The Canon Film Guide, Austin Trunick. Am I pronouncing it right?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you for the kind words.
Absolutely. And I think, if I remember correctly, I think it was Jimmy from Dancing with Ourselves. That kind of recommended you to us. And we think this subject is fascinating and hilarious. And it is like the Wild West of weird sleazy, schlocky B movie cinema filmmaking. And and you're like the expert. I mean, a lot of, myself included, we've seen, Electric Boogaloo, the documentary about it. But you have kind of gone way beyond with your multi-volume series of the Canon Film Guide, and I mean, there's so much detail in these books, and we don't have enough time to go into like all the things that are about Canon, but like I was hoping we could just spend an hour and just like do like a 30,000 foot view of like why you got into this, what you find fascinating,
how the book came about, and what is a Canon film, like for people who don't even know what a Canon film is, like,
and why should they care? So tell us about yourself and everything, man.
Well, my real entry into this is I am out in a pretty rural part of North Ohio, and so going to the movies, we're at a close movie theater. I remember for birthdays, or I think occasionally a great report card we'd go for, because it was a haul. My parents would have to take us quite a ways to go see a new movie. But we rented movies all the time, and back in the 80s, early 90s, you could rent movies everywhere, just at your 2 or 3 video stores that are in your neighborhood, but at gas stations. I remember the grocery store had a little rental like area in the front. The place that I remember renting movies from occasionally was a gas station, ice cream shop, and bait, like tackle and bait store. And they also
that is the most Ohio thing I have ever heard in my life.
Awesome. It's very Ohio.
That is so awesome.
Yeah, that was where I saw movies. We didn't have cable either, because we just couldn't even get cable where we lived. But I would go usually Friday night with my dad or my mom, and we would rent a stack of movies. And you'd take a VHS tape, you'd look at the back, and there'd be 1 or 2 tiny photos and a funny tagline, and maybe a few lines of text telling you what the movie's about. But that's what you had to go on, and that was your entertainment for the weekend. So that was where I fell in love with movies. That's where I first started getting very, very into them. And
how old were you at the time? How old were you?
Gosh, much too young. I was
too young for some of the movies.
Welcome to the 80s, baby.
Yeah.
A lot of these movies, my father loved Chuck Norris and things like that. So, and that was a time where, at least in my house, and I think this is the 80s, a lot of kids who grew up in the 80s, if your dad rented a Chuck Norris movie, that was the first movie that went in when you got home. That's what he wanted to watch. He was working all week, and you got to watch it.
Was your dad former military or into martial arts at all?
No. He had a lot of family who were military, but he wasn't.
It's so funny because like all of when I was growing up, especially in school, all of my friends who lived like out in the country in Tennessee, they were all like, all their parents, they all did like Ishinryu and jujitsu. So they all love Chuck Norris because he's like redneck Bruce Lee, So,
a good assessment of Chuck Norris's appeal. But Canon was everywhere on the video shelves. They made so many movies during that time. You can spin around, with your hands out like a helicopter, and knock 20 Canon movies around just with one spin. Knock them off the shelves onto the floor, because especially in the action sections, that was what their bread and butter. Their Chuck Norris, their Charles Bronson, their ninja movies, the American films.
Yes, the American Ninja.
Do you think that the ninja craze before Mutant Turtles, before Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles kicked off, do you think Canon was instrumental in bringing the ninja motif to American audiences?
I think they were very responsible for really kicking off that craze. Yeah. And you can see it in the way that a lot of the things that came out of ninja culture, even ninja pop culture ninjas, came from those movies. One of the prime examples with Ninja Turtles is the nunchucks. Nunchucks aren't a very stealthy weapon. They're not something a ninja is going to use as like a shadowy assassin. The nunchuck is not a practical weapon for that. But Malcolm Golan, directing Enter the Ninja in 1981.
I remember that movie.
He's a Bruce Lee fan. He named the movie Enter the Ninja as a ripoff of Bruce Lee, and he told Shu Kasugi that he wanted nunchucks in it. And even if that wasn't part of the script, if even that wasn't historically correct for ninjas, he put it in there. And those movies, Enter the Ninja, Revenge of the Ninja, and like even Ninja 3: The Domination, were very, I think, instrumental in what went into, you know, Frank Miller's Daredevil run with the ninjas in there, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Michelangelo has nunchucks because Golan wanted to rip off Bruce Lee.
Which one of those 3 ninja movies? I only remember the end of one of them where the climactic fight scene is on the top of a building. It's like on a rooftop. Do you remember it all?
Ninja.
Revenge of the Ninja.
Yeah.
I watched it with that kid. Remember that kid who took me into that abandoned house and I stole the Star Wars toys?
Yeah, the Snow Walker.
Yeah.
We talked about it on
Yeah.
Dancing with Ourselves,
Yeah.
how like Nick was an early thief. The only
I didn't
time
know.
he's ever
I was a
stolen
little
anything.
kid.
Yeah.
And my buddy was like, hey, there's these people were moving. So they went on
Mhm.
and moved, and the truckers, the moving company was going to come behind them and pick up all their stuff and move it. So they left. The house is abandoned. My friend knew about it. He's like, hey, these people just left all their stuff behind. They don't want it anymore.
And they're like 8.
Yeah, I was like 8 years
7,
old.
something like
He's
that.
like, yeah, come on. We gotta go over there and go in. We broke in, I guess. The door was unlocked. I don't know. We got in the house somehow.
But he sold it to you like it was abandoned.
Yeah, it was like abandoned. They didn't want the stuff anymore. We found this AT-AT, Star Wars
Wow.
AT-AT. And I was like, oh, it's so cool. And it was missing a lot of parts. And
Oh,
I'm
it's
like,
stripped
yeah.
down.
And I'm like, is
Yeah.
you sure that I can take this home? It's like, yeah, they don't want it anymore. So I grabbed it and I walked home with it. I was so proud of myself.
Yeah.
Treasure hunting. And it's
Yeah.
funny because I spent like most of my day today, this morning, just by myself walking around antique stores,
Oh yeah.
thinking,
Yeah.
man, I wish I could just.
Today's Nick's birthday.
Yeah, and so I took
Oh,
the day
happy
off.
birthday.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Big-
1978, baby, 1978.
We still have that Snow Walker.
So
by the
I
way.
love old things. I love
Oh,
things that
wow.
remind me of my childhood. And
But
That's
that was the
amazing.
same kid who told you about Revenge of the
yeah,
Ninja.
that went over. Sorry, I got sidetracked. But yeah, he was the kid. When I was really super into that whole ninja phase, you know, we went over to his house and we'd watch those ninja movies, and that's the one that I remember.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Then we'd go outside and throw throwing stars at each other. And
That's one of my favorite canon movies. People ask me all the time, what are your favorites? And my number one is Revenge of the Ninja, and that's
nice.
because of that nostalgia. I remember my video store as a kid. They had the action movies were, you know, a whole wall. And the lower shelves were your martial arts and your ninja movies and things like that. So rated I level was, you would see, you know, the poster art for Revenge of the Ninja and burning
Marketing.
into my
Violence directly into the brains of children.
Yeah, just mainline it right into my
God, I miss the
my
80s.
pineal gland. Yeah, the 80s were awesome, you know. Well, you know, that's a funny thing, Austin, like you mentioned, you know, going to anywhere and you could get videos, you could get VHS,
Yeah.
you know, copies. You know, all of that has gone away. It's all been replaced by like this almost too easily accessible stuff of like Netflix and Hulu and, you know, Disney Plus and Paramount Plus and all these streaming services. But like, do you ever miss the old days of like Friday night going with your family or friends to the video store and getting videos and having that ritual at all?
Yeah. all the time.
Right?
All the
Yeah.
time. There's really nothing like it with in the streaming world. Nothing
Yeah, there
compares
isn't.
to that. The closest is there's a streaming platform called Tubi, which
Okay.
has a lot of these a great supply of B movies and things that that are probably cheap to license that other companies don't bother with. But
Oh, yeah.
what I do love is the categorization isn't great on there. So you can flip through a section and there's something, it feels like a videotape being on the wrong shelf. You can be looking through like comedies and suddenly see Invasion USA or something listed in there. And it just doesn't make sense. But I enjoy that. That's the closest I can come in this day and age, other than going to antique stores, which is where you find VHS tapes these
Yes,
days.
you do. You do. I
VHS,
love
yeah.
it, man. Yeah, I love it.
Invasion USA, by the way, for anybody, this is sort of like the Goslings, you know, this is a channel where honestly, like we interview a lot of people who are because we're Christian fiction writers, we're
Yeah.
Christian novelists.
Yeah.
And we interview a lot of people who like are into prophecy or, you know, the Nephilim from Genesis 6 or
The weird stuff, the Christian
weird
fringe.
Christian fringe, esoterica, you know, that's kind of like our wheelhouse. So this is like a totally just
This is a
fun,
break. This is a break for us.
self-indulgent kind of thing for us that we know our audience, because a lot of our audience is like Gen Xer, you know,
Yeah.
we know they'd love it. But for anybody who may be uninitiated, tell them about Invasion USA and maybe like a handful of your
I've never seen it.
favorites.
I have no idea what
Dude,
it is.
it's so awesome. And it's kind of prescient.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a weird, like the plot, you know what I mean? Like Invasion USA kind of has a plot that is very, very relevant in the post 9/11, sort of era. So anyway.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, so in Invasion USA, Chuck Norris stars as Matt Hunter, who is this very vaguely defined special agent. I don't know if he's CIA or FBI, or they probably
he's like
think
Jack
hard
Bauer before Jack Bauer.
Okay.
Yes, like from 24.
And he basically, what happens is there's a bad guy played by Richard Lynch, who was one of those great 80s bad guy actors. If the name doesn't ring a bell, if you saw his face, you would think of him from something. You've seen something with him in it, usually playing a villain. And what he does is he just gathers up all of these different, almost like a Legion of Doom of like terrorists, from all over the world. And they load up onto some German U-boats, like old former U-boats that Cannon rented, film them rolling up onto Florida into Miami and unloading, and they take over the U.S. and basically going around causing chaos. But the only person who can stop them is, of course, Chuck Norris.
Of course.
And the movie from that point on is just these guys, these bad guys show up somewhere, try to do something, try to ruin everybody's day, try to fit something violent, like a violent act. And Chuck Norris suddenly appears and shoots him with Uzis, runs his truck through him, drops a bomb on him.
Yes, the bomb from the rooftop where he's got the cables.
Yeah.
And they're like holding the suitcase bomb and they're like looking at it. They're like, it's not going off. Why doesn't it work? And he's up there on the roof looking over him with the cables. And he's like, now it will.
Now it will.
It's
beautiful.
It's a movie because one of my favorite Chuck Norris canon movies, just because it is so unfiltered, like just Chuck Norris action. Once you get past this little introduction setting up like where these bad guys are coming from, it doesn't even dwell on that as much. But then every scene after scene after scene is just Chuck Norris action. He's suddenly here. He'll be in one scene in Miami thwarting a bad guy, and literally what looks like the same, what you assume was the same day because it's just a cut to the next scene, no great dissolves or fades or anything. He'll be in Atlanta, like at a shopping mall, like thwarting just happens to know where the bad guys are. So
yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
He's like the avenging archangel of victims of terrorism in that movie. Like he's just like the Grim Reaper. Like he just shows up and kicks everybody's ass.
Nice.
And it's so awesome.
And he's wearing a denim vest while doing it, which is
just a denim vest, or does he have a shirt on under it?
And pants.
No, there's usually not a shirt on. I mean, Chuck Norris has enough chest hair that he doesn't really need a shirt. He's going to stay warm.
Yeah. He really is kind of like, Jack Bauer, but karate kicks because he's got the stretchy jeans. Do you remember
and not a heroin addict?
No. Do you remember in the 90s, like there were even like those martial arts jeans that they marketed like from like for his brand because
the Chuck Norris action pants.
Action pants, yes. And they had like the gusset that would so you could do like the high kick.
Yes.
And
the diamond gusset.
Yes.
Yep.
Dude. Yeah. Well, and that's
isn't that your porn name?
Yes.
Diamond gusset.
Well, it was Sweaty Fudge, and now it's